Chapter 46-40. Is this forcing us to go back the way we came? Not to mention Qin Feiyang and the inner demons, even women like the mermaid princess, Fire Dance, Long Qin, and Dong Qin couldn't help but feel angry. Just as the madman said. It was too obvious that they were being targeted. No matter what, we can't go back. Even if we have to use the last of our origin power, we have to rush out of the barren desert. The white-eyed wolf roared, and the remaining 3,000 strands of origin power appeared in an instant. Trying to force them to go back the way they came? No way. Boom. The 3,000 strands of origin power turned into a long sword and tore apart the storm in front of them. Qin Feiyang led a group of people and rushed forward without looking back. The black storm was terrifying. It could even destroy the origin power. However, those sand monsters were not affected at all in the black storm. They swung their mountain-like fists and crazily smashed at Qin Feiyang and the others. Go to hell. The madman waved his hand, and 1,000 strands of origin power appeared, turning into a 3-foot-long sword and sweeping in all directions. They were no longer in the mood to collect energy crystals. They had no time to collect them. Now was the time to race against time. The white-eyed wolf roared, "Little Qin Z, little devil, you two quickly merge." Although the inner demons didn't have much power of the laws left, after merging, they didn't have to use the profound laws to fight, but to use the 4th level of the will of the heavenly Tao to escape the barren desert. So, even if the power of the laws of the inner demons disappeared, they wouldn't be affected. Because the will of the heavenly Tao didn't need the power of the laws to support it. This was an invisible thought. Qin Feiyang and the inner demons looked at each other. At this time, the inner demons didn't say anything. Qin Feiyang also stopped. The two stood facing each other. The merging time of about 100 breaths was really a very long process for everyone now. Boom! Finally, the old demon Qin mentioned by the white-eyed wolf was born. "Old devil Qin, hurry!" The white-eyed wolf roared. He had to rush out within an hour. This was because the combined state could only be maintained for an hour. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. He activated the instant time and the 4th tier of the will of the heavenly Tao, and his speed instantly soared. Although they were unable to fly in the air, the group of people were like sharp arrows at this moment. It was simply impossible to catch their traces. This was the speed of a 4th level will of the heavenly Tao. It was no exaggeration to say that. Even Long Chen, Madman, and the others couldn't see Qin Feiyang's shadow. Even if it passed right in front of their eyes, they would only feel a gust of wind blowing past them. This speed was unrivaled in the world. Roar! About an hour later. Suddenly. It was accompanied by a deafening roar. A fist rushed out of the black storm and rushed towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Madman instinctively swung his sword. Because, along the way, they were constantly being attacked by the yellow sand monsters. So they didn't think too much about it. They only thought that it was still an ordinary yellow sand monster. But when the long sword collided with the fist, Madman was actually forced to retreat. With a cry, he spat out a mouthful of blood. There was no long sword formed by the origin power. But even so, it was enough to shock everyone. What? Qin Feiyang and the others turned pale with fright and hurriedly looked at the fist. They didn't know if they didn't look, but they were shocked when they saw it. That fist was also shattering under the bombardment of the long sword. But that fist was no longer ordinary yellow sand, but a kind of golden sand. What's going on? The group of people's faces were full of surprise. Roar! There was a roar. A golden-colored monster rushed out of the storm. It was as tall as a mountain. Its ferocious aura was monstrous. Its appearance was the same as the yellow sand monster. But the difference was that its body was golden, as if it was made of gold. Moreover, whether it was the pressure it emitted or the hardness of its body, it far surpassed the yellow sand monsters they had encountered before. What kind of monster is this? Madman was originally very angry. But when he saw this monster, he was dumbfounded on the spot. It's not yellow sand, it's golden sand, Long Chen murmured. Even comparing yellow sand and golden sand in reality, one would know that there was a fundamental difference. Yellow sand. It was also ordinary sand. But golden sand was real gold, just mixed with some impurities. Therefore, yellow sand and golden sand were obviously not on the same level. The strength of these two monsters was definitely not on the same level. Golden Sand Monster. This was a name that Qin Feiyang and the others casually gave it. I want to see how strong you are. Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the kingdom of life and death appeared. The fourth layer of the will of heaven erupted and suppressed the golden sand monster. The golden sand monster waved its other fist and punched the kingdom of life and death. The ultimate meaning of the law of life and death with the fourth layer of the will of heaven was actually shattered by the golden sand monster with one punch. This, the group of people was dumbfounded. This was too strong. The yellow sand monster that appeared before only needed 6 layers of the first layer of the will of heaven to easily defeat it. But now, the kingdom of life and death with the fourth layer of the will of heaven was actually unable to withstand the power of this golden sand monster's punch. Coming back to their senses, Lunatic grabbed the long sword with both hands and jumped up, reaching a height of 100 feet, and slashed at the head of the golden sand monster with a sword. Roar! There was a wail. The head of the golden sand monster exploded on the spot. Moreover, its entire body was also cut in half by the long sword. A translucent, diamond-shaped crystal appeared in the air. Everyone was slightly stunned. How could it be translucent? Just as they were in a daze, the yellow sand below rose into the air and rushed towards the crystal. Furthermore, as the yellow sand soared into the sky, it turned golden yellow. In other words, this golden sand monster was actually condensed from yellow sand. But midway, the yellow sand turned into golden sand. This also meant that the golden sand monster could also be reborn infinitely like the yellow sand monster. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang rushed up and grabbed the crystal. His divine sense poured into it, and sure enough, he found another consciousness. Following closely, his divine sense crazily rushed towards that consciousness. And the consciousness of the golden sand monster was also stronger than the consciousness of the yellow sand monster. Qin Feiyang used all his strength to erase this consciousness. The golden quicksand that had gathered immediately fell down and turned back into ordinary yellow sand. Fortunately, it was not reborn successfully. Everyone couldn't help but let out a long breath. Qin Feiyang tried to absorb it and found that the energy of time law was gushing out from this crystal. This discovery made him overjoyed. Because this was definitely the energy crystal of the strongest law. It seems that these monsters are also divided into levels. The yellow sand monster is the energy crystal of ordinary laws. And the golden sand monster is the energy crystal of the strongest law. Long Chen said. Qin Feiyang nodded and threw the energy crystal to Lunatic, saying, "Take a look at this energy crystal, how much of the power of time law can you recover?" After saying that, he led a group of people and continued to rush forward. The black storm had yet to stop. And a new danger appeared again. Because if one golden sand monster appeared, there might be a second one, a third one, or even endless like the yellow sand monster. So they had to quickly escape from the barren desert. Otherwise, once the origin power was exhausted, even if it was the black storm, they would die in the hands of these golden sand monsters. In terms of one-on-one combat, they were naturally not afraid. But if the golden sand monsters were really endless, then they would be exhausted to death. So, don't think that Qin Feiyang and the others were powerful and that the golden sand monsters were nothing in front of them. But in fact, that was not the case. Now they were in a very dangerous situation. Roar! Sure enough. In less than 10 breaths, another roar was heard, following closely. In the black storm in front, there were constantly roaring sounds. They didn't know how many golden sand monsters were hidden in the storm ahead. Boom! 5 golden fists came out of the storm at the same time. The terrifying oppressive feeling was suffocating. Quick! Don't get entangled with them, take out the origin power and directly kill them. Lu Jiajin shouted. To be honest, at this time, who would dare to neglect? No one. Therefore, before Lu Jiajin finished his words, everyone took out 1,000 origin powers in their hands and went all out to deal with the golden sand monsters. Qin Feiyang was responsible for leading everyone to escape. The white-eyed wolf was responsible for dealing with the black storm. The others were responsible for dealing with the golden sand monsters. Although they rarely fought side by side like Heavenly Lord Ji, the King, Jizun, and the Divine King, this was the first time they fought side by side with Qin Feiyang and the others. But this did not affect their cooperation. Although there were countless golden sand monsters blocking their way along the way, their speed was not affected at all. This was cooperation. As long as the white-eyed wolf could tear the storm apart, and as long as the others could deal with the golden sand monsters in time, Qin Feiyang's speed would always be at the limit. This energy crystal is amazing. About 100 breaths. Frenzy's exclamation suddenly sounded. What's the matter? Qin Feiyang asked. After absorbing this energy crystal, I've recovered a third of my law of time energy, which was almost depleted. Frenzy said. What? Hearing this, not only Qin Feiyang, but even Long Chen, who had always been calm, was shocked. One energy crystal could actually restore 1/3 of Frenzy's law of time? In other words, with only 3 energy crystals, Frenzy's law of time could be fully restored? This was already beyond terrifying. And this energy is easy to absorb. Previously, because it was my first time absorbing it, my speed was a bit slow. And if I go all out and absorb it at full speed, I estimate that I can absorb the energy of the entire crystal in 10 breaths at most. Frenzy also said with a look of disbelief. That means, as long as there are enough energy crystals, a person who has exhausted his law of time can directly restore to his peak state in 30 breaths. Mu Tianyang said. Yes. Frenzy nodded. What kind of treasure is this? It's a supreme treasure. Mu Tianyang looked at the surrounding golden sand monsters, and his eyes flickered with greed. Chapter 46-41. Frenzy glanced at Mu Tianyang and teased, if you want to stay and hunt these golden sand monsters, we won't object. Mu Tianyang's expression froze. The greed in his eyes instantly disappeared. What a joke. He was going to hunt the golden sand monsters alone. Not to mention this black storm, just these groups of golden sand monsters were not something he could deal with. It was better to follow the group. Let's collect the energy crystals, let's leave it to fate, don't force it. Because our goal is the true meaning of the ultimate law. Qin Feiyang led a group of people forward at full speed. The true meaning of the ultimate law, Mu Tianyang muttered. Compared to the true meaning of the ultimate law, the energy crystals were really nothing. Of course. If there was a chance to collect these energy crystals, they would naturally not let it go. After all, these energy crystals could also play a big role at critical moments. Right now, Dealing with the golden sand monsters was more difficult than dealing with the yellow sand monsters. But fortunately, everyone still had the power of the origin in their hands. It was easy to use the power of the origin to deal with them. Along the way, they also collected some energy crystals. Very soon, another hour passed by. The time for fusion ended. After Qin Feiyang and the inner demons disintegrated, they looked up at the storm ahead. They could not see the end of the barren desert. However, the sea breeze was getting stronger and stronger. They could smell the smell of the ocean. They believed that they were not far from the Star Sea. Qin Feiyang activated the dual will of the heavenly Tao and momentary time and continued to lead the group forward. Although it was not as good as the previous fourth level of the heavenly Tao, it was still faster than the first level of the heavenly Tao. Bang! At this moment, a loud sound came from Qin Feiyang. It came from afar and was especially ear-splitting. This was the sound of footsteps. Even the sound of his footsteps was so frightening. How frightening was his true body? Could it be that another monster had appeared? The group of people was extremely shocked. Qin Dage, do you want to go around it? Li Feng asked. Just the sound of the footsteps shook his body until the blood in his body surged and his face turned pale. Go around? Qin Feiyang's eyes flickered. He didn't know if he could avoid it. Now, this black storm was intentionally targeting them. Perhaps this monster that had appeared out of nowhere was specifically targeting them. Furthermore, at this moment, he was faced with a very troublesome problem. The black storm blocked their vision, making it impossible for them to see what kind of monster it was. No! I want to see what this bastard can do to us. Madman's eyes flashed coldly. This was not the first time they had targeted them. Especially the black storm at the very beginning, it had exhausted over 400,000 strands of their quintessence energy. Everyone had a limit to their patience. Over and over again, even if it was the Heavenly Emperor himself, he would not let it go so easily. The distance was getting closer and closer. Suddenly, the footsteps disappeared. Even his aura had disappeared. At this moment, it was as if the entire world had fallen into a deathly silence. Qin Feiyang and the others' hearts were in their throats, and they couldn't help but feel a trace of fear. Boom! This deathly silence didn't last for long. Accompanied by a peerlessly terrifying ferocious might, a purple gold fist smashed towards Qin Feiyang and the others from above like a huge mountain. Before the fist arrived, the force arrived first. The invisible force was like a torrent, shaking all directions. Qin Feiyang and the others suddenly felt as if they had been struck by lightning, their bodies and minds trembled, and they spat out a mouthful of blood. So scary. Looking at the descending fist, the majority of the crowd's faces turned deathly pale. It was many times more terrifying than the golden sand monster's combat power. Hurry! White-eyed Wolf shouted anxiously. He had to resist the black storm and couldn't make a move. Therefore, only Qin Feiyang and the others could solve this big problem. However, the golden sand monster's siege did not stop. Therefore, they had to leave some people behind to deal with the golden sand monster. Long Chen, let's do it. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice. Long Chen nodded. Lu Jiajin's 3,000 origin sources had been exhausted by the initial black storm. Therefore, he didn't have any origin sources in his hands now. Naturally, he couldn't make a move. As for Qin Feiyang and Long Chen, they had not used their origin sources. Therefore, the two of them were duty-bound. 2,000 origin sources appeared, turning into two torrents and charging towards the fist. Bang! In that instant, the two collided. The huge fist shattered on the spot. However, Qin Feiyang and the others looked at this scene without any joy. Instead of joy, they were shocked and in disbelief. Because, at least 10 wisps of origin force were shattered by the punch. One punch shattered 10 origin sources. What kind of concept was this? One had to know. Even the black storm needed more than 10 breaths to eliminate a wisp of origin force. In other words, this purple gold fist was even more terrifying than the black storm. What kind of monster is this? Who exactly is controlling all of this in the dark? If you have the guts, come out and fight fair and square. What kind of man are you to hurt others in the dark? Lunatic was seething with anger. These things that happened one after another were simply driving him crazy. However, no one responded to him. No. There was. A foot that was bigger than a mountain fell from the sky. A gust of wind swept over. Qin Feiyang and Long Chen clenched their fists. 1,990 origin sources merged together, turning into a long sword that emitted a dazzling 5-colored divine light. Let me do it. Long Chen grabbed the long sword and exerted force with his feet. He instantly rushed into the sky and slashed with his sword. Bang! A destructive aura suddenly swept in all directions. With one sword, the foot that was as big as a mountain collapsed on the spot. However, similar to the yellow sand monster and the golden sand monster, no blood flowed out. After the collapsed foot, it turned into pieces of yellow sand and flew all over the sky. Obviously, this was also condensed from yellow sand. Moreover, although this sword shattered the giant foot, at the same time, another 20 origin sources were shattered. That was right. 20 strands of origin energy. There were 10 more than before. It could be seen that the power of this foot was more powerful than the previous punch. If you don't remove the roots, it will grow again when the spring breeze blows. Lunatic shouted. They had to shatter its body and destroy the energy crystal. Wait a minute. The energy crystal of the golden sand monster contains the energy of the strongest law. This monster is even stronger than the golden sand monster. Could it be that the energy crystal in its body is the law of life and death? Long Qin exclaimed. The law of life and death? Qin Feiyang and the inner demons were stunned. This was really possible. Because only the law of life and death could surpass the strongest law. However, they were not tempted. If there was no black storm, they would think of ways to get this energy crystal. But now, they had not encountered the crisis of the storm and had no time to waste. They were not in the mood to get this energy crystal. Taking advantage of the monster's arm and foot being shattered by Long Chen, Qin Feiyang rolled up a group of people and rushed forward like a stream of light. Roar! A roar resounded through the sky. The monster seemed to be able to see them. Its other foot landed in front of Qin Feiyang and the others, setting off a wave of sand. At the same time, another fist also landed. An invisible force surged crazily. The foot was used to block the path of Qin Feiyang and the others. The fist was used to kill a group of people. This monster was also very intelligent. White-eyed wolf, I'll leave the front to you. Leave the top to me. The others are still responsible for dealing with the golden sand monster. Qin Feiyang, you don't have to worry about anything. Just take us and escape. Long Chen said in one breath and immediately raised his long sword and slashed. The white-eyed wolf's eyes flashed fiercely. Although some of the origin force in his hand had been consumed, there were still more than 2,000 strands left. More than 2,000 strands of origin force transformed into an axe. Like a divine axe, it split the black storm and chopped at the giant foot in front of it. Almost at the same time, accompanied by a deafening loud noise, the fist and the giant foot were shattered. It meant that the monster's limbs were now gone. Qin Feiyang took this opportunity to lead a group of people and rushed forward without looking back. Suddenly, The black storm in front of them gradually revealed a trace of light. Discovering this, Qin Feiyang and the others were greatly refreshed. The appearance of light meant that the black storm was about to end. Sure enough. In just about 10 breaths, they rushed out of the black storm with a whoosh. What greeted them was a green mountain and clear water. There was a majestic mountain ridge in front of them. The ancient trees on the mountain ridge towered into the sky and were full of vitality. What's going on? Where's the Sea of Stars? Everyone was surprised. But Qin Feiyang didn't stop and continued to lead a group of people towards the mountain ridge. Because there were still many golden sand monsters chasing after them. As the black storm went away, they could already see the scene behind them. They saw that the desert as far as their eyes could see was full of golden sand monsters. Each of them was like a towering mountain with monstrous ferocity. It was no exaggeration to say that. These monsters in front of them, as long as they left the secret realm and entered the divine kingdom, they could raise the divine kingdom to the ground in minutes. Moreover, everyone saw the monster that appeared behind them clearly. It was a purplish gold monster. Apart from its size, it was exactly the same as the yellow sand monsters and golden sand monsters. It was as dazzling as a king among the monsters. Damn it, I'm going to kill it. The more Madman thought about it, the angrier he became. He suddenly turned around and charged towards the monster with his origin force. Senior brother, don't go. Qin Feiyang was shocked and hurriedly shouted. You guys go over there and wait for me. Madman was filled with killing intent. The origin force turned into a long spear. He grabbed it in his hand and swooped down. Along the way, one by one, the golden sand monsters were constantly killed by him as if he was cutting vegetables. He didn't put away the energy crystals either. They were all shattered under the sharpness of the origin force. Brother will help you. White-Eyed Wolf was also angry. He turned around and charged forward with his origin force. Ignore them. Let's go. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and a group of people immediately ran towards the mountain ridge. Cousin, what's going on? Where's the Sea of Stars we agreed on? The mermaid princess looked at Lu Jiajin suspiciously. Lu Jiajin smiled and said, over this mountain ridge is the Sea of Stars. Heard of it? Everyone was stunned and quickly raised their heads to look at the other side of the mountain ridge. But the mountain ridge was too high. They couldn't fly, so they couldn't see the Sea of Stars on the other side. Chapter 46-42. Li Feng glanced at the mountain ridge, and his face suddenly changed. He turned to look at Lu Jiajin and the inner demons and asked, there won't be any danger in this mountain, right? As soon as these words came out, everyone present couldn't help but become nervous. It was no wonder that they were so paranoid now. It was really the barren desert that tortured them until they were exhausted. It even left a shadow in their hearts. According to the handbook, this mountain ridge is the second safe zone. Anyone who leaves the barren desert and lives to search for treasures in the outer Sea of Stars can recuperate here. Since it's a safe zone, there shouldn't be any danger here. Lu Jiajin said. But his tone was extremely uncertain. Because when they were in the safe zone of the barren desert, they were also attacked by the black storm. Safe zone? To hell with it. The inner demon snorted coldly. The safe zone had now become the most unsafe place in their eyes. No. It should be said that there was no safe place in the secret realm. Lu Jiajin smiled bitterly. Thinking of the encounter in the barren desert, not to mention the violent inner demons, even he couldn't help but be angry. If his strength allowed him to, he really wanted to find out the person who was secretly causing trouble and cut him into pieces. Whoosh! A group of people carefully entered the jungle. Finally, they got rid of the hot weather. Because as soon as they entered the jungle, a cool and refreshing feeling greeted them, as if they were in the spring breeze, and their bodies and minds were incomparably comfortable. A sense of tiredness also rose in their hearts. In the half a year in the barren desert, they were in a state of tension every day, without a moment of relaxation, and their bodies and minds had long reached their limits. So at this moment, they relaxed, and couldn't help but want to have a good sleep. However, even if they left the barren desert, they didn't dare to really relax their vigilance. They just needed to remember one thing. They were now different from the ruler couple of the divine kingdom, the emperor couple. Danger could appear at any time and anywhere. Entering the jungle, they still couldn't fly. They could only walk forward. Qin Feiyang was ready to walk in front to open the way. However, Long Chen suddenly stretched out his hand to stop him and said with a smile, "You've been leading everyone in a hurry, so I'm sure you've used up most of your power of law. You can walk at the back and recuperate. I'll open up a path in front." Qin Feiyang was stunned for a moment, but he didn't argue. He nodded and said, "Okay." Running around like this for such a long time was indeed a bit unbearable. Immediately, Long Chen walked in front. Qin Feiyang and the others walked behind them, keeping a distance of more than 10 meters. Keeping a distance like this was also a precaution. If any danger suddenly appeared, they wouldn't be caught in one fell swoop. Moreover, Qin Feiyang and the others, who were walking behind them, had more or less time to react and respond. However, the journey was unimaginably smooth. Other than the towering trees, shrubs, and weeds, there was no trace of any ferocious beast. There wasn't even a mosquito. But it went smoothly. However, this sort of deathly silent atmosphere caused the group of people to feel especially depressed. That's right. Other than the sound of their footsteps, there was no other sound in the entire mountain range. It was so quiet that it was frightening. Finally, a group of people climbed to the highest vantage point on the mountain ridge. Standing here, their line of sight would not be obstructed in any way. Everything in all directions was visible to their eyes. This is the Star Sea. Climbing to the top of the mountain and walking to the edge of the cliff, everyone was stunned at the moment when they looked ahead. Below the mountain ridge, there was a jungle that covered an area of about hundreds of miles. Verdant trees and green weeds exuded endless vitality. At the end of the forest, there was a vast and magnificent ocean. The sea was vast and boundless. Countless stars were reflected in the sea. That scene was as if there was a starry sky at the bottom of the sea, making people feel as if they had come to a dreamy world. What was even more peculiar was that there was no scorching sun in the sky of the Star Sea, but it wasn't dark either. Because in the sky, there were shining stars. The stars reflected in the sea were the stars in the sky. This was really a dreamy world. Usually, such a scene could only be seen in dreams. Too beautiful, intoxicating and infatuating. This is the Star Sea that is extremely dangerous. Once you enter, you will have a slim chance of survival. Why don't I see it at all? Fire Dance murmured. This beautiful scenery was simply breathtaking. This is the Star Sea. It's exactly the same as described in the handbook. Lu Jiajin said. But his tone was very solemn and there was a trace of worry in his eyes. No matter where it was, as long as something was beautiful, it would be more dangerous. Roar. At this moment, there was a wail. Qin Feiyang and the others came back to their senses and forgot that Frenzy and White-Eyed Wolf were still fighting with the monster. They quickly turned their heads to look. They saw that under the storm-like attacks of Frenzy and White-Eyed Wolf, the huge body of the purple-gold monster disintegrated. Sand and dust flew everywhere and a black and white energy crystal sunk out. Frenzy grabbed the energy crystal and poured his divine sense into it. However, he found that he couldn't erase the consciousness inside by himself. He quickly asked White-Eyed Wolf for help. So, under the joint efforts of the two, they finally erased the consciousness inside. The light of the energy crystal also dimmed. But it wasn't over yet. The two looked at the golden sand monsters that were crazily rushing over, and killing intent surged in their eyes. Kill! A loud roar. The two were like demon gods as they charged into the monsters. Not only did the golden sand monsters lose their lives. It seems that the half a year in the barren desert really suffocated them. Lu Jiajin shook his head. They were completely venting. Li Feng said, "As long as there is no black storm, it's actually not very dangerous here. The key is the black storm, it exists. Moreover, the barren desert is just the beginning. Next, we will enter the Star Sea and our journey will officially begin." Lu Jiajin turned his head to look at the Star Sea again and sighed, "This sea is not simple. If you are not careful, you will lose your life." "Is it that serious?" Li Feng frowned. "To be honest, it is more dangerous than the dangers we experienced in the barren desert. And this is under normal circumstances. If we are taken special care of, the situation we will face will be even more dangerous. To be honest, I don't even dare to think about it now." The inner demons had a heavy expression. Everyone looked at each other. Even the inner demons, who had always been lawless, had such a heavy heart. It seemed that the Star Sea could not be underestimated and could not be confused by its beautiful appearance. Lu Jiajin retracted his gaze, glanced at the jungle below and said with a smile, "There seems to be no changes in this safe zone. Let's take a good rest here and then enter the Star Sea." Everyone nodded. At that moment, Li Feng and Mu Qing lay sprawled on the grass without a care for their image as they looked up at the sky. "Don't say, the sky here is also so strange. Look, the sky above the barren desert is scorching hot. Look at the sky above the Star Sea, the starlight is bright. It is completely two different worlds." Li Feng gritted his teeth. No matter how dangerous the road ahead was, they had to face it calmly. They couldn't be impatient. They couldn't act impulsively. In short, the more dangerous it was, the more they had to keep a calm mind and mentality. This was the purpose of Lu Jiajin asking everyone to take a rest. About an hour later, the madman and the white-eyed wolf finally ran up, panting, covered in sweat and dust. "Have you vented your anger?" Qin Feiyang and the mermaid princess sat together and looked at the two with a smile. "No. I have to give the mastermind a good beating. Only then will I be able to vent my anger." The white-eyed wolf shook his head. The madman also nodded, a cold light flashing in his eyes. "Don't be discontent. If the mastermind behind the scenes really runs out, we may have to run for our lives." Fire Dance shook her head. "What are you afraid of? Don't I have it? Even if I die, I will die in front of you." The white-eyed wolf snorted coldly. "Bah! What nonsense are you talking about? All of us here have to walk out of the secret realm alive." Fire Dance glared at the white-eyed wolf. Why did he say such unlucky things? But in her heart, she was quite touched. Because what the white-eyed wolf meant was that he would protect her with his life. Even if she died, she would have to step over his corpse. On the other side, Long Qin, who was sitting beside Long Chen, had a trace of disappointment in his eyes when he heard the white-eyed wolf's words. It seemed that in this bastard's heart, Fire Dance's position was unshakable, and she had become an inseparable part of his heart. Although he was not very reliable, he was quite serious when it came to relationships. "What are you looking at? Have a good rest." Long Chen stood in front of Long Qin, looking a little unhappy. "I'm happy too. It's none of your business." "Humph." Long Qin snorted coldly and turned his head away. This made Long Chen feel very helpless. It seemed that his sister had fallen deeper and deeper. But his father had already told him that he would not allow his sister to get together with this wolf cub. But he also knew his sister's temper. Once she had decided on something, she would not give up and would not change her mind because of others. What should he do? The inner demons, who was sitting not far away, turned his head to look at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Wolf cub, let me see that energy crystal." "What energy crystal?" The white-eyed wolf looked at him suspiciously. "Are you playing dumb?" The inner demons frowned. "I really don't know. I have at least 800 energy crystals in my hands now, if not 1,000. How would I know which one you are talking about?" The white-eyed wolf had an innocent look on his face. The inner demon's mouth twitched, and he said patiently, "It's that black and white energy crystal." The white-eyed wolf rummaged through the universe ring for a moment and frowned. "Oh no, I can't find it." The inner demon's face darkened. The white-eyed wolf looked up at the inner demons and said, "Maybe I accidentally lost it when I was fighting with those monsters just now. Why don't you go down and look for it?" "Wolf cub, are you looking for a beating?" The inner demons got up and rushed to the white-eyed wolf with a murderous look. "Why are you angry?" "I was just joking to liven up the atmosphere." The white-eyed wolf quickly smiled flatteringly, took out the black and white energy crystal, and threw it to the inner demons. He bared his teeth and said, "You're welcome. I didn't say I was going to thank you." The inner demons rolled his eyes, grabbed the energy crystal, and began to study it with Qin Feiyang. Chapter 46-43. So overbearing. The white-eyed wolf looked unhappy and also took out an energy crystal. He couldn't do anything about the inner demon's overbearingness. If it was Qin Feiyang, he would definitely not take it seriously. Because he was familiar with Qin Feiyang and knew Qin Feiyang's character. No matter what he did, Qin Feiyang would not do anything to him. At most, he would just scold him. But the inner demons were different. Once this guy became ruthless, he would dare to beat up anyone. Thinking back to when the inner demons were just born in Great Qin, they were tortured to death. Immediately. Under everyone's stunned gaze, the inner demons threw the energy crystal into his mouth. It was as if he was chewing candy, crunching. "What are you doing?" Madman was stunned. "Nonsense, of course I'm absorbing the law energy." The white-eyed wolf rolled his eyes. The corner of Madman's mouth twitched. How could he absorb the law energy like this? Sure enough. This guy never did things according to common sense. However, he really admired this guy's teeth. The inner demons and Qin Feiyang also came to a conclusion. This energy crystal did indeed contain a huge amount of the law of life and death. But other than being able to absorb it, it had no other use. Leaving it at a critical moment should still be of great help. In the blink of an eye. 3 days passed. The group of people finally recovered their energy. Li Feng even slept for 3 days in a row. The feeling of waking up could only be described with one word. Awesome. Long Chen stood up, looked up at the sky, and said with a smile, "This behind-the-scenes manipulator has some conscience this time and didn't cause us any trouble." Humph. Just don't let me see him. Madman snorted through his nose. Although the anger in his stomach had subsided a lot, he was still a little flustered. Everyone looked at each other and smiled, then got up and looked at the star sea. Qin Feiyang said, "Cousin, tell us about the star sea so that we can be mentally prepared." Lu Jiajin scanned the sea and said, "The terrifying part of the star sea is the seawater." Seawater? Qin Feiyang and the others were stunned. The calm surface of the sea reflected the endless stars. No matter how one looked at it, there was no danger. She does look beautiful, but under that beautiful appearance, there is a great danger. This seawater possesses a strange energy that's sufficient to corrode the body and soul of an expert of the will of the heaven Tao within 10 breaths of time. Once it sinks to the bottom of the sea, not even its bones will be left. Lu Jiajin said in a deep voice. What? Everyone was dumbfounded. Killing a powerhouse of the will of the heavens within 10 breaths? Wasn't this similar to the sandstorm in the barren desert? This was because the sandstorm in the desolate desert could also kill a powerhouse of the will of the heavens within 10 breaths of time. Actually, this is only secondary. There are some ferocious beasts lurking in the Star Sea. These ferocious beasts are not afraid of the corrosion of the sea. Some of them are hiding at the bottom of the sea, while others are hiding on the various large islands. Furthermore, they are generally social creatures. Once you provoke one, you will attract a large group. Lu Jiajin said. There are more ferocious beasts? Qin Feiyang and the rest were stunned. Of course. According to the records in the handbook, these ferocious beasts don't exist outside. They only exist in the mystic realm. Their strength is generally at the will of the heavens. Lu Jiajin nodded. It can't be. All living creatures with flesh and blood start from zero and cultivate step by step until they reach the sovereign realm. How can they generally master the will of the heavens? Li Feng frowned. But this is indeed the case. There is one more thing. I wonder if you have thought about it? Lu Jiajin asked. What is it? Li Feng was suspicious. Let me remind you. We can't fly in the mystic realm. Lu Jiajin turned to look at everyone and smiled. Can't fly, everyone murmured. Suddenly. The group of people suddenly looked up at the Star Sea. That was right. They could not fly. The seawater of the Star Sea had a terrifying corrosive power. How were they going to cross the Star Sea? Walk on the water? This was something that they could do with their strength. But the point was, if they were to step on the surface of the sea, what if they encountered a storm or a beast sneak attack? Therefore, there were a lot of safety hazards. Qin Feiyang asked, is there any record in the handwritten letter of how the previous ruler and emperor couple of the Divine Kingdom crossed the Star Sea? Yes. Lu Jiajin nodded. Tell us quickly. The white-eyed wolf urged. The origin force. Use enough origin energy to transform it into a ship and sail on the sea. Lu Jiajin said. Upon hearing this, the corners of the white-eyed wolf's mouth could not help but twitch. What a joke. Not to mention a boat, they did not even have the capital to transform into a small boat. This was because they only had slightly more than 10,000 strands of origin force in their hands. They had to keep these 10,000 strands of origin force for self-defense. This was because Lu Jiajin had previously said that there were beasts lurking in the Star Sea. How could they survive without the origin force for self-defense? Furthermore, even if they took out all the origin force and transformed it into a small boat, it could not accommodate so many people. After all, including Lu Jiajin and the inner demons, they had a total of 19 people here. Obviously, this method would not work. Is there any other way? Qin Feiyang asked. Lu Jiajin pondered for a while and said, generally, those with wings can fly at high altitudes. But here, those with wings, it seems that only. Speaking of this, Lu Jiajin turned to look at the white-eyed wolf. The others were stunned and also looked at the white-eyed wolf. What are you looking at me for? The white-eyed wolf took a few steps back and roared, you want me to be your mount? Don't even think about it. Besides, doesn't Fire Dance also have wings? Why are you only looking at me? What did you say? Fire Dance's face suddenly darkened. How could there be such a man? He did not know how to be gentle with women at all. Ahem. The white-eyed wolf coughed dryly and quickly looked at Fire Dance. He smiled and said, I'm just saying. Don't be angry. They want to ride on your back, but I won't allow it. That's more like it. Fire Dance's face was much happier. The white-eyed wolf secretly wiped the cold sweat and suddenly looked at the mermaid princess. If he remembered correctly, this woman also had wings. What are you looking at? Be careful, or I'll gouge out your eyeballs. Qin Feiyang's face darkened. Ha, the white-eyed wolf laughed dryly. Don't be happy too early. I'm still not sure whether those with wings can fly in the secret realm. Wolf cub, why don't you try? Lu Jiajin looked at the white-eyed wolf and smiled. Don't give me that. If I can fly, how can I escape? No need to try. It definitely can't fly. The white-eyed wolf shook his head like a rattle drum. Whether it can fly or not, we'll know after trying. Hurry up. Don't waste our time. The inner demon said. Don't go too far. The white-eyed wolf stared at the inner demons. Long Qin looked at the white-eyed wolf and couldn't bear it. Then, he looked at everyone and said, why don't we change the method? Yes, yes, yes. Change the method. The white-eyed wolf nodded, looking rather surprised. This woman was actually speaking up for him. The sun must have risen from the west. Change the method, Lu Jiajin pondered for a while and said, so far, I can't think of any other way. No, there is another way, and that is to have a ship, but the level has to be at least a high-level sovereign divine weapon to withstand the erosion of the sea. Hearing this, the group couldn't help but roll their eyes. You want us to steal a ship of this level? There was no way to steal it. Because the best way to forge a divine weapon was to forge a divine weapon. Even a divine weapon couldn't be forged. The divine weapon itself needed to absorb the origin power and continuously upgrade its level. This method was equivalent to saying nothing. So, they could only persuade the white-eyed wolf. If he could fly in the sky, it would save them a lot of trouble. Actually, back at Imperial Capital Mountain, I thought about this problem. But when I saw you steal a few 100,000 strands of origin power from Ji Sui, I didn't think much of it. Lu Jiajin shook his head. Who would have thought that crossing a desolate desert would exhaust almost all of their origin power? It's all because of that damned manipulator. The inner demon snorted. It's useless to say that now. Qin Feiyang shook his head and sighed. He turned to the white-eyed wolf and said, how about this, no matter what profound we find in the future, the first one will be yours. The white-eyed wolf looked at Qin Feiyang, stunned. Long Chen and the others looked at each other and nodded, we agree. Are you sure? The white-eyed wolf struggled for a moment, but in the end, he couldn't resist the temptation of the profound of the strongest law. He looked at the group and asked. Who do you think we are? You're a man of your word. The inner demons wasn't happy. Do I look like a 3-year-old brat to you? Do you think I'll fall for that? Words have no proof. Swear a blood oath. The white-eyed wolf picked his nose and said. You're so old, yet you still have nostrils. Don't you feel disgusted? Fire Dance angrily slapped the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf smiled apologetically. Everyone looked at each other, helpless. In this world, only Fire Dance could make the white-eyed wolf obey. Blood oath, we're all on the same side. Don't you think it's a little? Li Feng bared his teeth. Brat, go play in the mud. The white-eyed wolf kicked Li Feng away and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, it's fine. Take your time. I'm not in a hurry. If you don't want to talk to you, you can talk to my wife. Fire Dance immediately glared at the white-eyed wolf. Don't worry, I'm not done yet. The white-eyed wolf quickly comforted Fire Dance, then looked at Qin Feiyang and the others, and said with a smile, but if you want to talk to my wife, you'll have to raise the price. You'll have to ask for at least 4 ultimate laws. When the group heard this, they rolled their eyes. Why don't you just take all of them? 4 of them? He really dared to say that. Now, they didn't even know if they could find the true meaning of the ultimate law. Then you can try first. Can you fly? The inner demons said angrily. Okay. The white-eyed wolf nodded, and golden wings appeared on his back. Then, he rushed into the sky and flapped his golden wings, but he fell straight down from the sky. Qin Feiyang and his group all retreated without any sense of loyalty. With a bang, the white-eyed wolf hit the ground. Dust flew, and a big pit appeared. He looked extremely miserable. Chapter 46-44. You can't fly? Looking at the dejected white-eyed wolf, the group of people couldn't help but frown. Shouldn't the focus now be on whether I'm hurt? The white-eyed wolf got up and glared at the group of people. He didn't even pick them up. Was he still human? Your skin is so thick, you won't die even if you fall. The inner demons laughed gloatingly. Look, is this something a human would say? The white-eyed wolf looked up at the sky with a sad face and murmured, I don't believe this. Boom! Rays of golden light surged like a golden sun, dazzling everyone's eyes. Following that, a giant golden wolf appeared. It was hundreds of feet tall, like a towering mountain. This was the true form of the white-eyed wolf. As soon as the golden wings spread out, a gust of wind blew. The eyes of Qin Feiyang and the others were full of expectation. Finally, the white-eyed wolf rose into the air bit by bit. He floated in the air. At this moment, the white-eyed wolf looked particularly handsome and mighty in the eyes of Qin Feiyang and the others. The white-eyed wolf couldn't help but laugh proudly. The faces of Qin Feiyang and the others were also full of joy. Good job. Fire Dance praised. Of course. Can your man be bad? The white-eyed wolf smiled proudly. The corner of Fire Dance's mouth twitched immediately. This guy really couldn't stand the praise. Let's go to the Sea of Stars and try it. But don't go too deep. Lu Jiajin said. Okay. The white-eyed wolf nodded, turned around, flapped his wings, and flew toward the Sea of Stars. Although he had always been a lawless character, looking at the Sea of Stars at this time, he was a little nervous. It wasn't his fault. It was Lu Jiajin's fault for describing the Sea of Stars as too terrifying. Passing through the jungle, he slowly entered the sky above the Sea of Stars. After observing for a moment, he didn't find any danger, so he flew over the Sea of Stars. He didn't realize it before, but now that he was flying in the sky, this feeling was too comfortable and wonderful. There was a kind of pleasure like a fish returning to the sea. Voila! The sea below suddenly surged with sky-covering waves. A big fish rushed out along with the waves. Its body was over 10,000 feet long. His entire body was silvery white and glowed with moonlight. The white-eyed wolf was shocked. He immediately looked down and saw the big fish rushing up into the sky, heading straight for him. Is this the ferocious beast that eldest cousin mentioned? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. But just as he was in a daze, the big fish suddenly opened its mouth, revealing a mouthful of sharp fangs that flickered with cold light. The white-eyed wolf's expression suddenly changed. Boom! The power of law surged out. The ultimate profundities of the 7 supreme laws instantly appeared. Along with the eruption of the will of the heavenly Tao, they charged toward the big fish. With a loud bang, the two collided. Blood immediately poured out from the wound. The fangs in the big fish's mouth were all shattered, but it did not endanger its life. He's so resilient. White-eyed wolf's expression froze. 7 ultimate profundities of supreme laws and the will of the heavenly Tao were actually unable to kill this huge fish? This guy was a little fierce. Get out! At this time, Lu Jiajin's violent roar came. The white-eyed wolf did not dare to be careless and hurriedly retreated from the Star Sea. Just as he was above the Star Sea, the sea below once again set off huge waves, followed by big fish rushing up into the sky. They were all the same size. They did not open their mouths and looked very beautiful. But once they opened their mouths, they were like man-eating water monsters. So many. They are indeed social creatures. The white-eyed wolf could not help but break out in cold sweat. Fortunately, he listened to Lu Jiajin's words and did not act carelessly. Otherwise, he would be in deep trouble now. Splash! These big fish returned to the sea one after another, setting off huge waves. However, they did not sink to the bottom of the sea again. Instead, they floated on the surface of the sea and stared at the white-eyed wolf. This made the white-eyed wolf's scalp tingle. "What are you looking at? If you continue to look, I will bring you all up and stew you in a pot." The white-eyed wolf cursed angrily. Splash! A group of strange fish seemed to be able to hear the white-eyed wolf's words and immediately rushed toward the shore crazily. "Damn it!" The white-eyed wolf cursed and turned to fly toward Qin Feiyang and the others. The hearts of Qin Feiyang and the others also hung in the air. "Don't worry. The beasts in the Star Sea can't go ashore." Lu Jiajin comforted. "Can't go ashore?" Everyone was stunned. Yes. It was recorded in the Emperor's handwritten letter. They can't leave the Star Sea. Lu Jiajin nodded. That's good. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The white-eyed wolf hurriedly passed through the jungle and ran to the top of the mountain. Looking at Qin Feiyang and the others, he shouted, "Why aren't you running away? Are you courting death by staying here? Now you know fear." Lu Jiajin rolled his eyes. Why did he provoke these monsters for no reason? Wasn't he looking for trouble with himself? The white-eyed wolf was slightly stunned. He looked at Lu Jiajin and then at Qin Feiyang and the others. Then, he turned around and looked toward the Star Sea suspiciously. He saw a group of strange fish floating on the surface of the sea, their eyes flashing fiercely. What's the situation? Why aren't they going ashore? The white-eyed wolf was stunned. It seems that the handwritten letter is correct. These monsters can't leave the Star Sea indeed. Long Chen smiled faintly. It turns out that they can't leave the Star Sea. It really scared me to death. The white-eyed wolf had a look of lingering fear. These monsters were quite unique. Now they were actually blocking the shore. Were they going to continue to waste time with them? "Brother Wolf, have you noticed that your speed is very slow now?" The mermaid princess suddenly looked at the white-eyed wolf and asked. "Very slow?" Everyone was stunned and looked at the white-eyed wolf one after another. When they saw the white-eyed wolf successfully soaring high in the sky earlier, they were too happy to notice these details. "It's indeed slow. And it's quite strenuous." The white-eyed wolf nodded. "Strenuous?" Qin Feiyang was doubtful. "Yes. When I fly high in the sky, there is an invisible force oppressing me. I estimate that I will be exhausted in half a day at most," the white-eyed wolf said. Upon hearing this, everyone's heart sank. Given the white-eyed wolf's cultivation, he could only hold on for half a day. What could he do in half a day? The Star Sea was so vast. He might not even encounter an island in half a month. This was because the white-eyed wolf had to rest when he was exhausted. Without an island, there was no place to stay. Without a place to stay, how could he rest? Therefore, this was undoubtedly a difficult problem to solve. Why don't we do this? If we can encounter an island, it's naturally best. Everyone can rest and reorganize. But if we don't see an island by then, he and I will take turns to fly you," Fire Dance said. "Huh?" Everyone looked at Fire Dance. "I don't agree. The white-eyed wolf was also stunned at first, then he immediately said. His woman, how could he let other people, especially a group of men, trample her under their feet? There's no other way now. Although Sister Mermaid has wings, even if she changes back to her true form, she can't fly with us because her upper body is originally a human body. In other words, she can't let us stand. Fire Dance said. But, the white-eyed wolf raised his eyebrows. It's okay. It's not easy to come up with a solution in a place like the Secret Realm. Why bother about these details? We'll talk about it later. We're not outsiders. It's okay to step on my back. Fire Dance smiled slightly. Hearing this, the white-eyed wolf transformed into his human form, grabbed Fire Dance's hand, and said with a tender face, "You're really the kindest woman I've ever seen in my life." Fire Dance's cheeks blushed, and she said, "There are so many people here. Can you not be so mushy?" I'm proud, I'm proud." The white-eyed wolf held Fire Dance's slender waist and looked at Long Chen, the inner demons, and the others proudly. "Why are you looking at us?" This gaze made Long Chen and the others a little crazy. He didn't look at Qin Feiyang or the madman, but only looked at them. Wasn't he clearly mocking them? Because Qin Feiyang and the madman had already found the other half, but they hadn't. I'm happy to. If you have the ability, go and find one too. The white-eyed wolf shook his head. That arrogant look made even Qin Feiyang and the madman want to slap him. Long Chen and the others sighed helplessly and turned to look at the sea of stars. They couldn't look at this wolf cub anymore, or they would definitely beat him up. Seeing that the school of big fish didn't leave for a long time, Lu Jiajin looked at the distant coast and said, "Let's go around these big fish." With these big fish guarding the coast, they definitely couldn't enter the sea of stars from here. What are you going around for? Just kill them all. The inner demon's eyes flashed fiercely. They still had the power of the origin. Moreover, there was no need to use the power of the origin to deal with these big fish. He was confident that as long as he activated the Demon King true body, he could easily deal with them. No. If we kill them, the smell of blood may attract more monsters, so in the Sea of Stars, we have to avoid killing as much as possible. Lu Jiajin shook his head. The inner demons frowned and didn't say anything more. Let's go. Lu Jiajin waved his hand and turned to the east coast. However, when Qin Feiyang and the others moved, the big fish guarding the coast also moved with them. Are they going to fight us to the end? Madman raised his eyebrows. The group turned again and walked to the west coast. The school of big fish also immediately swam to the west. Damn you! There's no end to it. All of you, die. The inner demons was furious. The Demon King true body appeared, and 24,000 ultimate profound meanings immediately appeared. The dual will of the heavenly Tao erupted, and then shattered the sky and crazily attacked the school of fish on the coast. But there was a trace of ridicule in the eyes of those big fish. Immediately after, the school of big fish dived into the sea and disappeared. Looking at this scene, Lu Jiajin shook his head and smiled bitterly. These monsters were all clever. But the inner demons didn't stop attacking. 24,000 ultimate profound meanings rushed into the Sea of Stars. Boom! Splash! Waves of water soared into the sky, covering the sky and covering the earth, submerging the forest below. The originally lush jungle, with the washing of the sea, instantly became a barren land. In other words, all the plants were eroded by the sea in an instant. Looking at the Sea of Stars again. 24,000 ultimate profound meanings bombarded the sea. Although it stirred up huge waves, it didn't cause much damage. Not a single body of the fish lurking at the bottom of the sea floated up. In other words, these 24,000 ultimates were unable to kill a single big fish. What's going on? Everyone looked at this scene in surprise. With so many ultimate profound meanings and dual will of the heavenly Tao, if placed outside, it was enough to destroy a continent. But now that it was bombarded into the sea of stars, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. This was too abnormal. Chapter 46-45. It should be because of the corrosive power. Lu Jiajin frowned. Under the beautiful appearance, there was indeed a terrible crisis hidden. It seems that it's not that easy to deal with the beasts in the Star Sea. Qin Feiyang shook his head. When these beasts were no match for them, as long as they were fast enough, they could hide in the sea and avoid their attacks. Sigh. Whether it's the barren desert or the Star Sea, they are far beyond our imagination. We, the powerhouses of the will of heaven, are considered experienced and knowledgeable. But now, in this mystic realm, I feel like an ignorant child. The king sighed. Everyone nodded and felt the same way. Splash. Suddenly, accompanied by the sound of the waves, a school of big fish once again surfaced from the water. Their huge pupils were full of ridicule for this group of people. The inner demon's face was dark with anger. A powerhouse with dual will of heaven was ridiculed by a group of fish? It was a bit of a blow. Don't worry about them. Let's use the concealment technique to avoid their sight and find a safer place to enter the Star Sea. Qin Feiyang stopped the inner demons. It was a waste of time to waste with these big fishes. Phew. The inner demons took a deep breath, suppressed the anger in their hearts, and retreated with Qin Feiyang and the others. After avoiding the sight of the big fishes, Qin Feiyang looked at the white-eyed wolf. I can carry you. But I have another condition. Fire dance will have the priority to obtain the second ultimate law, Lin Feng said. The white-eyed wolf said. Because he still needed Fire Dance's help along the way. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. The others had no objections. Dare to have objections? If they dared to have objections, when the white-eyed wolf went on strike, they could only watch helplessly. Of course. The most important factor was that everyone was a team. It was the same to give it to anyone. This time, the white-eyed wolf did not make everyone swear a blood oath. He quickly changed back to his true form. Qin Feiyang and the others stood on the back of the white-eyed wolf, which was more than 1,000 feet long. When they had nothing to do, they could take a leisurely stroll. After everyone jumped onto the white-eyed wolf's back, Qin Feiyang activated his concealment technique, and the group of people instantly disappeared without a trace. Go! Qin Feiyang waved his hand, and the white-eyed wolf immediately flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The big fish by the sea once again entered their sight. However, at this moment, there was a trace of confusion in the eyes of these big fishes. However, suddenly, a group of large fish stared at a certain spot in the void with a trace of bewilderment in their eyes. Seeing this, Qin Feiyang and the others were shocked. What's going on? Could the big fish see them? This was because the school of fish was staring at the void they were in. Not good. White-eyed wolf, stop. Lu Jiajin's face changed, and he hurriedly sent a sound transmission to the white-eyed wolf. The white-eyed wolf was stunned and immediately stopped in the void, asking suspiciously, "What are you doing?" Wind. Although the concealment technique can hide our figures and aura, it can't hide the wind from your wings. These water monsters must have noticed the wind here, so they are staring here. Lu Jiajin explained. Qin Feiyang patted his head. That's right. The wind was a loophole. Li Feng said, how about condensing a barrier to block the wind inside? No. The barrier is suspended in the air. I can't hide the barrier together. Moreover, with our current strength, the aura of the barrier condensed is very strong. The level of the concealment technique is too low. It may not be able to hide the aura of the barrier. Qin Feiyang said. Lu Jiajin pondered for a while, then looked at the white-eyed wolf and said, "Then fly slower." "Okay." The white-eyed wolf nodded and slowly flapped its wings, moving forward at the speed of a tortoise. The corner of Lu Jiajin's mouth twitched. With this speed, when can they enter the Star Sea? It's really strange. The sea areas we have seen before have strong winds and huge waves, but why is there no wind and waves in the Star Sea? If there is wind and waves, we can use the wind and waves in the Star Sea as a cover. Frenzy frowned. The Star Sea also has wind and waves. Lu Jiajin nodded. Is there? Why didn't I see it? Frenzy was suspicious. There was indeed wind. But it was just a breeze, a cool breeze that couldn't even blow up the waves. Can this little bit of wind be considered wind? Didn't you guys notice? For the past 3 days, the Star Sea has been daytime? There has been no night? Lu Jiajin asked. Huh? Qin Feiyang and the others looked at the Star Sea. The sky was still bright with stars. Although there was no sun, making the Star Sea seem a little dark, it was no different from daytime. It seems to be true. Long Chen mumbled. For the past 3 days, everyone had been recuperating. Especially Li Feng, he had been sleeping for 3 days without waking up for a moment. So, even if they asked him, he wouldn't know. Because he didn't pay attention to these at all. But in the past 3 days, Long Chen would occasionally open his eyes and pay attention to the movements in the Star Sea. So now, after hearing Lu Jiajin's words and thinking about it a little, he quickly noticed this point. Because the situation in the Star Sea is quite special. Every 10 days, there will be a night. Every time night comes, all the stars will disappear and the entire Star Sea will be shrouded in darkness. At this time, the Star Sea will reveal its most terrifying side. Lu Jiajin said in a deep voice. The group of people looked at each other. The current Star Sea was already terrifying enough, but there was an even more terrifying side. Was he trying to scare them? What's the benefit of scaring you guys? Lu Jiajin shook his head and explained, the Star Sea at night will become a devil's sea. The entire sea surface will be filled with whistling storms and huge waves will cover the sky and the sun. In our current state, it will be difficult for us not to be swept away by the huge waves. Hearing this, Qin Feiyang and the others looked at each other. It was really quite serious. Lu Jiajin said solemnly, the most terrifying thing is that every time night comes, the beasts in the Star Sea will enter a state of frenzy and bloodthirst. Frenzy, bloodthirst? The group of people was surprised. Yes. You can understand it as a change of temperament. When they enter a bloodthirsty frenzy, they will crazily pounce on people when they see them. They are not afraid of death and they will even attack their companions around them. According to the records in the handbook, after one night, the entire Star Sea will be dyed red with blood. Lu Jiajin said. Gasp. The group of people couldn't help but gasp. This was too ferocious. Just by listening to it, they couldn't help but feel their scalp tingling. So before night comes, we must find an island to stay on and defend with all our strength. Otherwise, we will definitely be in danger above the sea. Lu Jiajin said. Qin Feiyang and the others looked at the Star Sea. Li Feng said with some fear, why don't we wait for the first night to come and then set off into the Star Sea? Because it was the first time for them to enter the secret realm and come to the Star Sea. They didn't know how many days the night would come. What if it came tomorrow? Or what if it came tonight? They would first see the horror of the night and then go into the Star Sea when they were mentally prepared. I don't have any objections. Lu Jiajin shrugged. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while, looking at the fish by the sea, and said, "Even if we have to wait until the first night to enter the Star Sea, we have to get rid of them first." Everyone agreed on this point. Although these big fish couldn't go ashore, they had been staring at them covetously, which made them feel a little uneasy. During the conversation, the group of people had only flown a few hundred miles. This speed, for experts at their level, could indeed only be described as the speed of a turtle. Because the distance of a few hundred miles was just a blink of an eye for them in the past. About half an hour passed. The group of people finally stopped and landed on the top of a giant peak shaped like an eagle's head. The white-eyed wolf asked, "We are now in the safe zone. When night comes, the beasts will enter a bloodthirsty state. Will they come ashore to attack us? If they will, then there is no need to stay here and wait. They won't. Whether it's the current beasts or the berserk beasts, they can't leave the Star Sea." Lu Jiajin shook his head. "That's good." The white-eyed wolf nodded, transformed into a human form, and looked at the endless Star Sea. It was really a headache-inducing adventure. Over the years, they had been to many places. For example, the Sky Bell Divine Treasure. But it was the first time for them to be in such a strange place like the Secret Realm. Time flew. Woo-woo, suddenly. Above the Star Sea, the wind and clouds were surging. Qin Feiyang and the others were comprehending the laws. Because they still had some ultimate mysteries that they had yet to master. Hearing the sound of the wind, the group immediately opened their eyes and looked up at the sky. They saw dark clouds rolling in from the horizon. "Does this mean that night is coming?" the white-eyed wolf asked. Lu Jiajin nodded. "Fortunately, we didn't enter the Star Sea." The white-eyed wolf rejoiced. If they entered the Star Sea in the morning, it would be equivalent to floating on the sea. Even if they were lucky enough to find an island, it would definitely not be as safe as the safe zone. The wind was getting stronger and stronger. On the surface of the sea, waves gradually rose. After a while, the entire sky of the Star Sea had been covered by dark clouds. At that moment, the sea in front of them fell into darkness. Woo-woo. At this moment, the wind on the surface of the sea turned into terrifying tornadoes, raising huge waves that blotted out the sky and covered the earth. The originally calm sea instantly boiled. All the stars disappeared. The Star Sea in the night seemed to have turned into a purgatory, as if there were countless demons wandering and roaring in the huge waves. "Damn it!" Frenzy looked at this scene in shock and said to Lu Jiajin next to him, "Fortunately, you said it in advance, otherwise we would have been caught off guard." Lu Jiajin's eyes were also very solemn. Although they could avoid danger this night, what about in the future? In the future, they would face such a storm sooner or later. And not once, but twice. Because they would eventually enter the Star Sea. It was impossible to hide in this safe zone forever. Once they entered the Sea of Stars, it was inevitable that they would encounter such dangers. Once every 10 days. Who could endure this? The most important thing was, now, they didn't have much origin force left in their hands. It meant that, no matter what danger they encountered in the future, they would have to rely on their ability. Chapter 46-46. Tornadoes were roaring above the sea as far as the eye could see, as if a disaster was coming. It was shocking. Roar. Gradually, roars sounded in the Sea of Stars. Soon, fierce beasts rushed out of the sea one after another. There were big fish as long as 100 feet, black giant crocodiles, and all kinds of fierce beasts such as pythons and flood dragons. Each of them was as huge as a mountain, fierce and powerful. However, without exception, their eyes were scarlet at this time, as if they had lost their minds and were possessed by the devil. Roar. Accompanied by a deafening roar, a giant crocodile rushed out of the sea, covered with black scales, as if cast from divine iron, glowing with a faint light. What was more terrifying was, it actually had 3 heads. Each head was like a mountain, and its eyes were as big as a dustpan, shining with a terrifying fierce light. As soon as this giant crocodile appeared, it became fierce. It raised its mountain-like huge tail and smashed at a giant python. This giant python was also thousands of feet long. The snake scales on its body were as hard as divine iron. But in front of the giant crocodile, it was as small as an ant. As the giant tail fell, the giant python's head exploded on the spot, and blood instantly dyed the sea red. Then, under the shocked gaze of Qin Feiyang and the others, the giant crocodile tore the giant python into pieces and ate it raw. "This is too fierce," the white-eyed wolf murmured. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, who would dare to believe this scene? Right now, the surface of the sea was like azure hell. Bloody, ferocious, unbearable to look at, blood dyed the surroundings red. This is just the outer sea, no. This is just the area by the sea, and the area by the sea is so terrifying. How terrifying is the scene in the deep sea? The hearts of the group of people were shocked to the extreme. They had never seen such a scene. Splash! Suddenly, another behemoth rushed out of the sea. This was a flood dragon. Its whole body was black. Its appearance was even more terrifying. There were a total of 9 heads. Its body was also tens of thousands of feet long. His 18 long and narrow scarlet eyes were like a sea of blood. As soon as the 9-headed black dragon appeared, it charged straight at the giant crocodile. Its long body was like a majestic mountain ridge. Roar! The 10,000 feet long crocodile looked at the 9-headed black flood dragon and suddenly roared. It rushed into the sky and opened its bloody mouth, revealing its dense fangs, and tangled with the 9-headed black flood dragon. The crazy collision of these 2 behemoths could be described as the end of the world. The waves surged crazily. Hundreds of millions of miles of space were shattered. Why are they so strong? They haven't even unlocked their profundities, but regardless of whether it's the strength of their physical bodies or their boundless strength, they far surpass the ultimate profundities of ultimate laws? Li Feng said in disbelief. In front of these 2 giant beasts, even he could not help but feel panic and fear. The creatures here can't be looked at with ordinary eyes. Qin Feiyang shook his head. From the moment they entered the secret realm, whether it was what they encountered or what they saw, it was beyond the scope of their knowledge. But fortunately, no matter how the ferocious beasts on the sea fought, they did not leave the Star Sea. At the very least, it was clear. This safe zone was indeed very safe. Roar! The 2 giant beasts were locked in a fierce battle. Furthermore, it was as if they had all gone mad. It was as if they did not care about their lives at all. So very soon. Both of them had countless large and small wounds on their bodies, and blood was gushing out. The 10,000 feet long crocodile wanted to take off one of the heads of the 9-headed black flood dragon. The 9-headed black flood dragon roared and its huge tail slammed towards the 10,000 feet long crocodile. One of its heads also exploded on the spot, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. What exactly is controlling their rationality? I don't believe that they would become like this for no reason. Not only the crocodile and the black flood dragon were fighting, but the other ferocious beasts were also killing each other. Moreover, they were also in a desperate state. It's indeed a little strange. And have you thought about it? It happens once every 10 days. Every time, there are millions of corpses and rivers of blood. With such frequent killings, the ferocious beasts in the Star Sea should have been extinct long ago, but why are there still so many strong beasts? And all of them are so strong? This did not make sense at all. Although everything in the secret realm was already beyond common sense, wasn't this too ridiculous? Roar! Suddenly, the 10,000 feet long crocodile looked towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Those scarlet fierce eyes shocked Qin Feiyang and the others. Just that look alone made them feel a chill in their hearts. It saw us. Long Qin shouted. He looked a little flustered. Don't be afraid, we are in the safe zone. Long Qin grabbed Long Qin's hand and comforted him softly. But before his voice died away, the black flood dragon also looked towards Qin Feiyang and the others. Although one of its heads was broken, there were still 8 heads and 16 fierce eyes, flashing with astonishing bloody light. Roar! Suddenly, the 2 giant beasts roared at the sky at the same time. They were like 2 kings. With a command, the ferocious beasts in the surrounding sea area immediately stopped fighting and looked at Qin Feiyang and the others on the mountain peak. Although they were in the safe zone, Qin Feiyang and the others were creeped out at this moment. It felt as if the god of death was standing in front of them. They won't rush over, right? The mermaid princess also walked uneasily to Qin Feiyang's side. Qin Feiyang grabbed her hand and comforted her. I am in the safe zone, nothing will happen. Just as his voice died away. Roar! The giant crocodile and the black flood dragon roared again. Immediately, the countless giant beasts on the surface of the sea rushed towards the shore in a mighty manner. The hearts of this group of people were in their throats at once. Although they knew that these beasts couldn't leave the Sea of Stars, they still couldn't help but feel nervous. 10 miles. 8 miles. 6 miles. 3 miles. 1 mile. Blinking. The beasts rushed to the coastline. The group of people couldn't help but retreat. Don't be afraid, they definitely can't rush out. The inner demons shouted. But, before his voice died away, the first beast rushed out of the sea area and entered the jungle. The terrifying ferocious power rolled over like moving mountains and overturning the sea. For a moment, the earth was crazily broken. The mountains and rivers were constantly collapsing. What? The group of people's faces suddenly changed. It could actually rush out of the Sea of Stars. Following closely, the second beast, the third beast, they were densely packed and crazily rushed towards Qin Feiyang's group. What's going on? Isn't this the safe zone? The inner demons suddenly roared. Damn it! We must have been specially taken care of again. The white-eyed wolf looked up at the sky and roared. Quick! Stop them! The king shouted. Heavenly Lord Ji took a step forward and activated his 3,000 incarnations. Various ultimate mysteries appeared out of thin air. As the will of Heavenly Tao was activated, a destructive power erupted and charged towards the beasts. These beasts were at least 100 feet in size. They were like mountains. Their eyes were blood-red, and they were not afraid of Heavenly Lord Ji's tens of thousands of ultimate mysteries. One must know. Heavenly Lord Ji had long comprehended 6 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. And all these years, he had been in the Black Tortoise realm, integrating other ultimate mysteries. So now, he had already mastered 8 ultimate mysteries of the strongest laws. 3,000 incarnations, a total of 24,000 ultimate mysteries. Such a terrifying formation actually failed to intimidate the beast horde. It could be seen that they had indeed lost their minds at this moment and only had killing in their eyes. Rumble. Roar. In an instant, the beast horde and the 24,000 ultimate mysteries collided. The beasts continued to lose their lives one after another. Fresh blood instantly dyed the void and the earth red. However, these beasts were too crazy. Their numbers were too huge. They were endless, one after another. 24,000 ultimates had actually been blocked by their bodies of flesh and blood. It was unknown how many beasts were hiding here. Anyway, the shattered earth below was already piled with corpses. However, these dead beasts were just the tip of the iceberg. There were still more beasts charging over. Heavenly Lord Ji alone was almost unable to stop them. The inner demons followed closely, activating their Demon King true body, life and death laws, and dual will of heavenly Tao. At this moment, they definitely did not dare to hold back their strength. But even so, the inner demons and Heavenly Lord Ji together could not stop the crazy beast horde. That's right. This was the beast horde. It was impossible to kill them all. The smell of blood had already enveloped all directions. The madman's eyes flickered as he looked at Li Feng and said, "Kid, guard me." Guard? Li Feng was taken aback. This is a good opportunity. There isn't much origin force left now. So, we have to think of another way. The only way I can think of now is to collect the evil force. As the madman finished speaking, he took a step forward and landed on the edge of the cliff. Activating the all-evil true body, his entire person instantly turned into a blood-colored vortex. The blood chi, murderous aura, and so on between heaven and earth suddenly turned into a torrent and rushed towards the madman. What a terrifying evil force! Li Feng's eyes trembled. Standing here for so long, he didn't feel any evil force at all. But now, the madman activated the all-evil true body and transformed into the source of all evil, allowing the evil force between heaven and earth to gather. He could clearly sense it at once. No. This evil force could be seen with the eyes. It was almost comparable to the evil force of Myriad Demons Valley. With such a strong murderous aura, the evil force will naturally not be little. Perhaps this is still a turning point for us. Qin Feiyang murmured and turned to look at Li Feng. No matter what, we can't let the murderer disturb senior brother. Understood. Li Feng nodded and quickly ran to the madman's side. However, the terrifying evil force around the madman wasn't something he could withstand. He immediately prepared to retreat. But at this moment, a hand rested on his shoulder and the evil force in his body was instantly sucked away. Don't worry. With me, the source of all evil, the evil force won't hurt you in the slightest. The madman laughed. Immediately, the surrounding evil force bypassed Li Feng and drilled into the madman's body. You can still control these evil forces? Li Feng was stunned. Of course. I am the source of all evil, the ruler of all evil. The madman smiled domineeringly. Come and help. At this moment, the anxious shouts of the inner demons and Heavenly Lord Ji sounded at the same time. Qin Feiyang and the others were paying attention to the madman. Hearing this, they immediately looked at the two and found that the beast tide had already rushed over, only a few hundred meters away. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.